to become who we want to be as individuals. And at the end of the day, that's going to help us be a successful offense.
Man-to-man, one-on-one coverage because the safety rolls to Jefferson's side.
Jordan Love hit me up the night of the draft, just congratulated me, let me know it's time to work. A.J. Dillon was open arms.
Rock caught a ball with his thighs. We didn't even talk about that.
It was more of with his ass.
If he throws a good ball, this is a running, catching touchdown untouched.
Like, KP does like these flips after every win, and I'm like just waiting for him to do his flip.
To know that we still love each other, that's what football brings us.
Across the safety's face.
So you can tune in anywhere that you guys follow us on social media. Welcome to the Practice Squad podcast. I messed up the music on the intro again. My name is Jon. I'm joined by my co-host Mark. And Mark deserves his flowers, man. He got him last week for being perfect in his best bets picks. And sure enough, he ended up being perfect the second week in a row. And now I basically have no hope of catching up to him. He is 29-12 in his picks on the season. I am 19-21. So take
Nothing
that
new,
for what
Jon.
you will.
Nothing new, man. You messed up the intro video, and I go with no losses in my picks. I'm 8-0 in my last 8. That's 2 weeks, 8-0 in my last 8. 29-12 overall. I just, if you want to doubt the kid, you can doubt the kid. If you want to win money, come ride with the kid.
Now, I do have to humble you a little bit.
Sure.
You still owe me an ACT.
I do.
So I think the football gods might be being generous to you because they know that you have a very big debt that you're going to have to pay pretty soon here. So
yeah. With the way I'm picking games, though, I might just pick answers like I pick games and get a 36.
I mean, and then you can go back to college over again.
Whole different life. Could be the start of something special.
It could be a massive opportunity for you.
Yeah.
Kind of like, it's setting up these best bets picks. So we're going to do a little bit of an alternative format for this episode. Main reason being is we are dropping on Thursday rather than Wednesday. So we feel like we want to talk about Thursday night football to get things started and do our picks a little bit earlier in the episode. So on that note, we have Panthers and the Bears tonight. And I'm going to call this the inverse tank bowl. Why is it the inverse tank bowl? Well, it would be a tank bowl, except Chicago actually owns the Panthers' number 1 pick, meaning that it doesn't hurt or help, or depending on how you look at it, hurts both teams to lose or win this game. There's literally no rhyme or reason to it. Chicago's record improves. It's worse for them if they're trying to tank. Or they beat the Panthers, or the Panthers beat them, same thing in the inverse, right?
Could we see a planned tie?
That would be so brutal.
Might not be bad to sprinkle a little couple dollars.
So
on
that came very close to happening. What with the Raiders? Chargers?
The Raiders, the Raiders Chargers,
which was 2 years
because
ago.
Remember they chose to.
They
chose to not. Yeah,
what happened? They took a timeout, so the clock didn't completely run out.
They were gonna knee it out, and they chose to kick the. It was because they were gonna make the playoffs regardless, and they knew that win or loss.
Right. So that's So maybe we see a similar situation. I don't know. Obviously, like second round picks matter too, but. We're getting Justin Fields back too. So just in general, and we're not like turning this into picking our spreads, but we'll get there later. But like, what do you think like the outcome of this game is going to be? Do you think if these teams were both trying and not intending to tie or tank, who do you actually think is the better team?
Honestly, all jokes aside, I think the Bears are the better team. And I think both teams will try. It's the NFL. Like we joke about these tank bowl and all of that. But I mean, these teams are going to try. It's a primetime game. A lot of eyes on this game. Both teams are going to try. These guys are playing for their livelihoods. These guys are playing more than just to win or lose. Like it's about, getting money for your family, providing for yourself, proving people wrong, proving people right. There's way more into it than just like, oh, well, we want to get the number 1 pick for the players don't care about that. That's not what it's about.
Right.
So you're going to see both teams' best efforts. Those efforts are pretty shitty because both teams are pretty bad. But I think the Bears are slightly better than the Panthers overall. I think honestly, not incredibly disappointed with how Banjan's played at quarterback for the Bears. I think he's been slightly better in his limited sample size than Bryce Young. I think he also has a better team around him than Bryce Young does. And that's why I think I'm going to give it to the Bears.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. And obviously, like the Bears are still making trades. Ryan Poles still out here overpaying defensive players. It's just kind of his favorite thing to do, I think. But yeah, I think there's a little bit more in the vein of no, we're going to try to win this game. Panthers really struggling this year. It's hard to watch if you've watched any of it. It really is.
I didn't even notice I'm repping the
Chicago. There we go.
Can
The
you see
merch
that
looking
okay?
good. Yeah. Oh yeah, we can see it great. So
I'm repping the Chicago hat, Chicago practice squad, Bears hoodie with Bulls and everything on there, Cubs, White Sox, everything's on there. Just a
Merch
friendly
link.
reminder that that's out there. So how
Link
can I
will
not
be
pick them?
in the description, by the way.
How can I not pick them?
How can you not? But yeah, that's our merch. So if you guys want to go and check that out, link is in the description for you to do so. And then a last talking point before we get to one of our segments here. This is going to be the season with the most rookie starting quarterbacks in the modern era for the NFL, over 10. With DeVito going in for the Giants next week after Danny Dimes tears his ACL. That is, almost 30% of the league starting.
John, we've never seen a more polarizing quarterback play season, right?
It's been rough.
At the top, you've got Mahomes, who honestly hasn't even been playing that good, but he's still, when you look at his numbers, still pretty ridiculous. Just we hold him to a higher standard because of what we've seen. You got Herbert, you've got Burrow, you've got Lamar, who's been playing lights out. I still put Josh Allen up there in terms of he's not been playing well, but his talent and all that stuff. And then you have kind of this, I would put Trevor Lawrence in there as well. And then you have like this middle of the pack that's morphed into the bottom of the league. And there's a lot of bad quarterbacks, man. I mean, you're talking like 10 to 15 quarterbacks that have no business ever starting a game, let alone being in the league. And they're starting football games on primetime television on a Monday night, and the whole world's watching them. And you could probably find some better quarterbacks that are playing in college. There's probably some guys that are sitting on their couch watching the game that might be just as good. Like seriously, I mean, there's some bad quarterback play going on.
I mean, it's a weird transition phase for the league, right? Like all of those old greats are officially no longer with us. With Rodgers, obviously being out the season due to injury.
Big Ben, Brady,
Big
Mannings.
Ben. Brady, yep. I mean, you can even throw guys like Rivers in there who were, a staple for a really long time. Like it's not the Breeze. It's not the same vibe. Like, because you have all of those guys that were like staples, right? They were starters for their teams for a decade, if not, in Brady's or Rodgers' case, like close to 2 decades, right? And so, to move on from that, you're seeing a lot of new faces. You're seeing a lot of young guys get a shot where probably in previous years that they would be, second stringers or not in the league. So there is a lot of turnover, but, with that comes opportunity. Who over the next few years is going to rise to the occasion? What guys are the Brady's, the Mannings, the Roethlisbergers, in the making right now that are going to be the starters for their team in the face of their franchise for a decade, right? So, plenty of opportunity right there, but right now a lot of guys suck, and it is
a lot of guys suck.
And
there's some middle of the pack guys, but there's a lot of guys suck.
Yeah, and so we mentioned a lot of icons. So to segue into our next segment, Mark and I thought it would be fun to talk about who we feel like are the 5 most iconic players in our hearts in all of the National Football League all time.
Totally opinion-based. There's no real explanation as to how do you define iconic.
No play, no news cycles. It's just who do we feel like, when we're 70 or 80 years old looking back on the league, like what guys, up to this point are we going to still be
We've done some shorts on like random dogs, right, on TikTok, YouTube shorts. Like we've done like random dogs where we show some former highlights of some star players. But when we think of NFL players, and you're just sitting there, statistics, rings, all of that is out the window. You're just like, who's iconic? Like, who do we remember for right or wrong reasons? And we want to do a little draft of our top 5 each, and then let you guys decide of my 5 versus John's 5, who has the better top 5.
Okay, before we get into our 5-2, do you want to do a couple honorable mentions, right? Like who would be your sixth? Just to
Let's do
you
that
have enough
after.
guys
Let's
on
do
your
that
list?
after. Let's
Okay,
because
okay.
we'll see who you. I don't know who you're gonna pick. John doesn't know who I'm gonna pick.
Yep.
So hopefully
Who's
there's probably
your
some
number
overlap. You want to start bottom up?
Yeah, bottom up. Who's
Okay,
number 5?
we'll alternate. So once I take someone, actually, let's go 1 through 5. Okay. Once I take someone, you go, then me, then you.
Okay,
and
so we're
once
treating it like a draft.
true draft,
Okay.
true draft style.
Mark, after you, who's your number 1?
Really, I get the first overall pick.
Yep.
This is close to my heart. First jersey I ever owned. Something special about that 21 in the powder blue. I'm going LT Lindanian Tomlinson with the signature. Get that little signature like ball flip, the celebration, the tinted visor, how he played the game. He was one of those first do-it-all backs, and I literally wore 21 as a kid to be like him. He was like the coolest thing ever. I drafted him in every fantasy draft I ever could.
So were you specifically asking for Tomlinson jersey from your parents?
Yes, for Christmas. It was the first jersey I ever owned. It was. I used to wear it in the basement and play tackle football with my brothers and throw them around and throw them into metal poles and stuff. And I was always wearing that jersey.
To keep with the running back vibe, this guy just had a statue erected at Ford Field. My number 1, the guy that I've seen more highlight reels of than any other player in the NFL that has ever played in the NFL, it's got to be Barry Sanders, right? Obviously, Barry was after Mark and I's time as a Lions player, but that's how you know just how legendary it is so many guys from Michigan, whatever, will talk about Barry Sanders as if they watched him growing up playing because of just how many highlights they have seen of this man play. I mean, he truly was an icon. He has seen so much fame to this day, still one of the most respected guys around the league. So yeah, gotta be number 1 for me.
John, I'll be honest with you. 1, you had to use the word erected to start your pick. That's funny. 2, I still to this day, like,
isn't that what you do to a statue?
I mean, it's just like you could have said put up, built, sure. whatever. Still this day in the grocery store, in like if I'm walking through crowded halls, airport, like if I like dodge someone, I'll still be like, oh, Barry Sanders. Like I'll still like in my head, and I'll even say it sometimes. Like he's just iconic for making people miss, and his body moved in ways that you shouldn't be able to move. That's a good pick. Do you want to go back-to-back picks because I went first?
Sure, we'll go back to back.
Little snake draft.
Little snake. We can just go back and forth from this point forward.
Okay.
After this, but my number 2, and it's because I have spent more time listening to this human talk than probably any other person on the face of this planet. Unfortunately,
don't do it.
It's Pat McAfee, man. And so I'm just thinking when I'm 70 or 80 years old, I'm gonna be thinking about the fact that I've spent 2 to 3 days a week for the past 3+ years of my life listening to Pat McAfee talk. And I don't see that changing anytime soon, frankly, especially, I mean, I was kind of around before he's really become the household name that he is now. And I think he's going to continue to be a household name for decades to come.
He changed the way I look at kickers and punters. I'll tell you that much. He did that position
for the
differently
brand
than anyone ever. Yeah. I mean, he is iconic. Crazy you put a kicker punter specialist as the top 5 iconic. But it's crazy because I kind of agree. I'm going to stay in the specialist range. Now, different kind of specialist, returner, iconic, best to ever do it at this position. He just was different than anyone else that ever did it. No one's ever going to touch it. Every time he touched the ball, it was like, what's he going to do? Give me Devin Hester. Chicago Bears, Devin Hester, best kick returner, best punt returner. He made plays that you should never be able to make. He made grown men look silly on a weekly basis, and he just was a spark to the NFL.
Excuse me because I'm ignorant. What was his non-specialist position?
Technically receiver. I mean, he did have some like touchdown catches and stuff, but he was like almost exclusively a return guy. But
just
he
a
was,
returner. Dude,
there was a point. I think his rookie year, he had like 6 or 7 kick returns / punt returns in like an 8-week span. It was ridiculous, dude.
Well, and like I kind of miss the era of I feel like people really taking pride and specializing in returns because they're just not the same as they used to be.
Not the
right?
same. What he did will never be touched. Also, partially because he was that special, but also the NFL has ruined the return game because they're actually very much encouraging teams not to. Almost every time you see a guy take the ball out on a kick return, they get worse field position than if they just would have fair caught it or let it hit the.
That Chargers punt return was the first punt that I've seen housed that I feel like in at least a few weeks, right? Like you don't see them that often anymore for punts and kicks especially, right?
But they're so electrifying, you know.
But they're so sweet. They're crazy. Because it's just like, it's one of those things where you expect a play to go a certain way because, 99% of punts and kickoffs are just turned into somebody, being down, with probably horrible field position or whatever. Yeah. And then you just slowly watch like, oh, is he going to do it? Oh, he made that guy miss. He made that guy miss. Oh, is he going to do it? He's gone. He's gone. Okay. And like, it's crazy. It's a fun build up on a play.
It is.
Sure. So, okay. Next we got number 3 for me. And, obviously showing my Detroit bias here, but the reason why I have to have this dude as high as I do is not only does he have an iconic nickname, but the thing that I remember most out of any time I've ever been to Ford Field was his Bengals catch. I was right in front of that end zone.
I was right next to you.
He sticks his hand up and catches it with 3 guys around him. I believe Mark, attended that game with me. It was one of the craziest things that I have ever seen in my entire life, not just in sports, literally ever. It's Megatron, right? It's Calvin Johnson.
Megatron, man.
Arguably the greatest receiver of all time. I mean, Randy Moss is in that conversation. There's a few other guys, but just like if you're from Detroit, like that's your guy. That was the one like shining light of hope for, a ton of very shitty Lions teams over the years because he just did things that other people could not do. Period. He was the most incredible athlete I've ever seen with my own eyes.
Haven't seen many people have 2 guys line up and press a receiver on a red zone play like the Saints did. And that picture is one of the craziest NFL pictures. I thought it was photoshopped first time I saw that. That's an honorable pick. 2 Detroiters in your top 3. That's
again, it's iconic, right? It's all subjective. These guys are very near and dear to my heart and why I love this sport so much. So I feel like they got to be on the list.
All right, with my number 3 pick, I'm torn between a few guys. I don't think John will pick any of the guys that I have left, though, so I feel safe. I'm going to change it up. We've had some more show guys, but we need some tough guys. Like when you think football, you think tough, you think badass. I'm going Dick Butkus. He's my 3rd. RIP. I'm going Dick Butkus. You think badass football. You think guys that just played it the right way. Played it back when you could do whatever you wanted to quarterbacks. You could throw them by their neck. You could twist people's face masks. You could do whatever you wanted. He was one of the scariest. People feared playing against that guy every week. Like, actually were scared.
Yeah, name is iconic, obviously.
The look. He just the most football-looking guy there is. Like when you think, when you say linebacker, you just, without a doubt, you're thinking you're imagining.
It's like his pads. Oh, that was a horrible crack. It's like his pads were anatomically, like surgically connected to his body.
Dude,
he just.
I love Dick Butkus, man.
So. If you're done with your spiel, it's funny enough. I also have a bear for my number 4 guy.
What is going on here?
I know. Look at that synergy right now. My guy, though, he's known as the refrigerator, William Perry.
Oh, check it out on the back.
Yep. He's on the hoodie right there, top left, paying homage to it. And so I saw his ring. I think it was the NFL Hall of Fame, like museums, right? And just to like conceptualize how large of a human he was. And it was like, it could have been a bracelet on like some smaller humans. And it was literally his championship ring. Probably just like, if I'm thinking like, who's like just the biggest, largest NFL player that I can imagine, first person I think of is William Perry. Dude lives rent-free in my head for just being the like iconic, like just line freaking 3 humans large person.
The iconic touchdowns he would get on the 1 yard line are just, you can't forget them. You give the ball. He was the first. I feel like he was the first guy that, the fat man touchdowns everybody loves. Right. But he made those a thing. Like he did it so well. No one could tackle the dude from 1 yard out. It was genius. It was genius.
Tush push who? He just was the tush push in one person.
We have 3 Chicago Bears on this list: Hester, Butkus, and the Fridge, and you have Barry and Megatron. That's a heavy.
If we're talking iconic here, like
the NFC
clearly
North.
I was gonna say our upbringing is reflecting in this list for sure.
Yeah.
So
All right, that's your fourth pick, the fridge. I'm gonna go, man. All right, I'm gonna do this because you went with the fridge. I'm gonna go with the bus. Pittsburgh Steelers, Jerome Bettis. Speaking of big dudes that could run the football, this guy is a beast, man. He's a beast. Started his career, he was big, but he got bigger and bigger as time went on. By the end of his career, when he won that last Super Bowl in Detroit against the Seahawks, like, he was big. He was running dudes over. Nobody wanted to tackle him. He almost never went down on first contact. When you have a nickname like the Bus and you play in a black and gold and white uniform and you play for an iconic team like the Pittsburgh Steelers and it's all about being
That's so
tough
good.
and having the steel curtain defense, it only is right that you match on the offensive side of the ball a physical runner like him. And he is the Pittsburgh Steelers Hall of Famer, Jerome Bettis. Give me him at my fourth.
when did he retire? I mean, he's got
Right after that Super Bowl in
Right after?
whenever that was in Detroit, 07.
yeah, it was 07 or 08, something like that. It was
Yeah.
like somewhere around the same year that we went 0-16 as a team, and we were hosting the Super Bowl. Actually, I met Barry Sanders at like they did like some kind of like event prior to hosting the Super Bowl. I can't even remember what it was, but my grandpa being a season ticket holder, they had like a whole signing, and Barry was there signing footballs and shit. It was pretty cool. All right, this one I think I'm going to get roasted for. I think we both have pretty respectable lists up until this point. I think you're going to make fun of me for this.
This might sway the people's pick, John.
It could. Number 5 for me, most iconic players. Again, I'm going to be thinking about this dude when I'm 70 or 80. It's Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Dude.
And here's my reasoning.
You realize we're talking all time, right?
All time. Harvard grad. Played in the NFL for what? 15 years at a pretty high level, and never played for the same team like multiple years in a row. Like, was just a true journeyman. You need a quarterback in a pinch. Ryan Fitzpatrick is your guy. And he looks like a pirate. I mean, and I think
He looks like Carter Ferris, who we've
I
had
can
on the
see
show a
that
couple
too.
times.
Well,
Yeah.
Carter needs to start growing out his beard a little bit. Right now, just with the mustache, Carter. I told Carter this to his face, so he won't be offended. With the mustache and how he looks in some of the pictures that he takes, he looks like he just watched somebody like get murdered or something like that. Like just like absolute shock on his face. It's hilarious. Like,
Slandering him on air.
I'm not, because I've said this to his face. So,
But now the whole world's
and
hearing
he,
it.
and he agreed. He thought it was funny. Anyways, look, I think Fitzmagic, he has a long broadcasting career ahead of him, and I always really enjoyed watching him play. Especially the last few years, right? Getting closer to retirement. I mean, he did not care for his body, like, at all. Like he was literally taking hits that no quarterback should be taking, especially somebody at his age. Like that Miami Dolphins season, like, he was like suicide running the ball, like doing stuff that Josh Allen, regularly does, but he's 12 years older than him. So he's just always been really entertaining to me. Always been a Fitzpatrick guy. And so that's why he's number 5 on my list. And I knew that one was going to come out of left field.
That might hurt you in the votes, I'll tell you that.
That's all right.
I'm going to go with my last pick. Ended on a bang here. Chad Johnson, Chad Ochocinco, whatever you want to call him. Dude played the game with the most swag of anybody ever. The future Hall of Famer jacket, touchdown celebration, putting with the pylon, proposing to a cheerleader on the sidelines. He was the first original 7-Eleven, I'm always open. Hey, why you call me 85, right? Like, he is the guy. Like, trash talk king. Great feet, great route running, crazy balance. The way he torqued his body in the air, had unbelievable playmaking ability as well. But the guy was just a character. The stories that you have of him, man, the stories, like, he would call players like the night before and just like talk trash and just like get in their head. Like, he was just a different breed. His McDonald's diet, I mean, still to this day, he's
I was gonna say the McDonald's diet, and too, like, Ochocinco is one of my favorite people on social media. Like,
he's hilarious, dude. And like, he just lives this crazy life. I mean, he plays FIFA online, is like really, really good at video games. Like, he just is like good at a bunch of different things. When he went and like raced Tyreek Hill and tried to play DB against some of the current receivers, like, he's just a character, man. He's just a special individual, and he is in my top 5 most iconic NFL football players of all time. That's the list. You let us know what you think in the comments. I think I got John beat. We'll see what happens.
I think they're both respectable lists, though.
They're definitely respectable. Definitely respectable.
I also a quick honorable mention. Troy Polamalu. I just like first guy. I think like as a kid where I was like on a different team where I was like, who's that guy? Why is he like around all the time? Why do I see him everywhere? Because he just is an icon, and played his position at a level that I think very few other safeties had played at. So that's right.
I got my honorable mention is Joe Namath, Broadway Joe. Just wooed the ladies, man, in the era. Third Super Bowl, right? Won the Super Bowl with the Jets. He's just iconic. The picture of him laying out in his lawn chair with just media all around him, chest hair. Like, he was just what football was at the time. He was with the quarterback position. Again, swagger, ego, just the way he carried himself. Iconic, man. Iconic. Joe Namath, Broadway Joe.
Yeah, I mean, and I do, miss those, like, he was what, late 70s? Just 70s football vibes are just
special,
unreal.
Man.
They are. They're incredible.
Good lists. Good lists.
Yeah. All right. So we got, I think, one news thing to tackle where Mark and I were bantering with one another a little bit before the episode started.
No doubt. No doubt.
All right.
I'm coming after Vocal here.
The University of Michigan, are they in a worse situation than when we talked about them 2 weeks ago right now, or are they in a better situation? Because the way that I see it, Mark is saying that they're just pointing fingers right now. The way I see it is that this sign stealing scandal looks to be a lot wider than anybody thought, just like NCAA wide. It seems to be a lot more of an organized thing than really anybody accounted for at this point. And now Michigan and Ohio State, classic, are pointing fingers at each other and saying, no, you sign steal worse than us, which in of itself is kind of a silly concept because, again, not illegal, but now we're at a point now where it's like we're seeing how ridiculous this concept actually is, which it's a competition, man. People are going to do whatever they can to get a competitive edge. So what's the deal at this point, Mark? Do you have like a strong take on it? Because right now I'm just sitting around confused.
I do. And I'm going to make it personal to you because you sound like every like strong diehard Michigan fan that I've heard talk about this. John's in denial. John's sitting here saying that everyone's sign stealing and that it's a common thing and that it's not illegal and it's not a big deal and Michigan bent the rules, didn't break them, and why wouldn't they get a competitive advantage? Here's what happened. Here's what we know has happened. Now, we don't know how serious it is. I think it's much more serious than anyone's even making it out to be, and this investigation is going to show that eventually. The reality is everybody sign steals. John's right. When you're across from a sideline, if you coach football at any level and the team is signaling, you're going to try to pick up on what they're doing. If you see stuff on film when you're watching during the week, you're going to try to predict what those signs mean. You're going to write stuff down. You're going to study other games. You're going to try to figure it out. It's part of the schematic advantage that you get. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody does do that. Where there's a fine line, and Michigan clearly crossed the line. They sent a staff member on their coaching staff to other teams' games and had him film these signs directly. That's illegal. He was on the sideline, and at this point, it's almost all but confirmed because they still can't confirm who that individual was, and it looks just like the dude. Okay, whether it was planned or not with Central Michigan, that dude was Connor Stallions on the sideline dressed as a fake coach for Central Michigan so that he could get first look, sideline look at what Michigan State signals were because they would play them a few weeks later. Also, on top of all of this, who knows how deep that goes? That's just what we know right now. That's on the surface, in which, by the way, both of those things are illegal. Faking the Central Michigan coaching thing to steal signs, illegal. Going to other teams' games in the stands, buying tickets to playoff games, filming the signals is illegal as well. Direct violations of NCAA rules, right? On top of all of that, it's everything that's happened since 3 years ago. Flashback 3 years ago, Jim Harbaugh's on the hot seat. Is he going to go to the NFL? Are they going to fire him? This was before he got his contract extension. Can't beat Ohio State. Should be competing for national championships. Is not. Winning 8-9 games a year. Choking against Michigan State. The snap, trouble with the snap play. All of that, right? You remember this. He was on the hot seat. I'm assuming you even at one point probably wanted him gone.
I didn't, but I clearly remember this a few years ago.
All of a sudden, something changes and Michigan becomes a powerhouse.
Come on.
Right around the same time. Think
Come
about this. Think
on.
about this. What would Jim Harbaugh be willing to do to make sure that he continues to coach at his alma mater, to change the image he has, to get the contract extension he wants, to try to compete for a national championship at the school he loves and played for?
Eye roll.
I don't know to what extent he'd go to, but everything that's turned around for Michigan has also happened at the same time that this sign stealing scandal has dated back to, which is when they beat Ohio State for the first time in a decade, which is when they've dominated Michigan State, which is when they've made the college football playoff appearances, which is where they've been a national contender 2-3 years in a row. All of it dates back to the same time that they got the schematic advantage. And I don't think people realize how big of an advantage they have when they were stealing these signs. It's one thing to get a couple reads on a few signs and have a good play on a third down here. They knew what was coming on almost every single snap in some of these games. And the fact that these Big Ten coaches are getting, you're even hating on them. So I've heard other Michigan fans hate on these Purdue coach for coming out and saying that it's a problem. Now they have to huddle and change how they're calling plays because of it. Ohio State coming out and saying things. Rutgers came out and said stuff. Iowa said stuff. Penn State, Franklin came out and said stuff. Like, everyone is coming out. These are respectable dudes, respectable coaches that have done it a long time, are saying that they have a problem with what happened with Michigan, and people are bashing these coaches and saying, well, just beat them. You're making excuses. Just beat them. They're won by 50. So would it really have been close if they didn't cheat? How about just go win the game an honest way and leave no doubt and don't cheat to do it? I have a serious problem with it. I don't know how extreme it is. If it's only the Central Michigan coaching sideline thing and a few games that he went to and filmed, still illegal, still should suspend Jim Harbaugh. I think you have to. And my whole problem is the next few weeks are critical, because if you don't punish Michigan, I don't think you should punish the players because they're not a part of this. They received advantage as players, but they weren't a part of it. You have to punish Harbaugh. You have to punish the coaching staff. I feel bad because you can't punish the players, but you have to take Harbaugh on a suspension when they play Penn State, Ohio State, and then if they make it the Big Ten championship. If they make the playoff, let them coach. If they still earn their way there, let them coach in the playoff, let them into the playoff, and all of that. But if you don't punish them now and they make the playoff, and God forbid they win a national championship, and then more stuff comes out, then you have all these teams that are like, well, what would have happened if we figured this out before the playoffs started? We probably wouldn't have put Michigan in. Maybe what happens to those bubble teams like Washington, Oregon, Texas? If Ohio State loses to Michigan, those teams that are going to have one loss, Alabama, LSU, like Notre Dame, all these teams that could be floating around at the time. I know some of those teams are probably never have a chance of getting in, but some do. Those teams are going to be like, hey, we would have been that fourth team had Michigan been punished at the right time. Because they know they violated rules now. It's just a matter of how badly did they.
All right, if anybody's tired of Mark's voice yet, I'll step in and counter a little bit. So here's the thing, is that the NCAA, the way that it has been organized for a very long time, has allowed teams to take advantage of things. And there's always been asterisks related to this team or that team because, this team recruited harder and paid their players off, or all of these other things. You've heard it with the U, you've heard it with Alabama, all of these different eras in college football. To go ahead and say that Harbaugh is only still coaching in Michigan because he started sign stealing so much harder than everybody else in order to beat Ohio State and over to get over the hump, like, that's just not at all a reality.
All I'm saying is he didn't beat him until he was stealing signs.
If everybody's sign stealing, you cannot convince me at all that them sign stealing harder than everybody else was that competitive edge they needed to be the dominant program that they are now. I don't believe that for a second. Is there definitely stuff that's illegal that should be investigated that Michigan's done? 100%. From what it sounds like, the news cycles, the conjecture that's going on, there's a lot of other fishy stuff, especially in the Big Ten area around sign stealing and the lengths that people are willing to go in order to steal those signs. And not to mention, all of this could be solved if the NCAA, kind of like with NIL, just realizing it was a battle they can't win, decided to just allow freaking microphones and headsets on the sidelines and in helmets. You change this entire conversation instantly if you just turn around and modernize the slightest amount and allow people to start doing that. Because the argument right now is, well, not every program can afford to do that. Are you shitting me? We're giving players on the field tens of
Don't
thousands,
twist
hundreds
this
of
argument,
thousands
though,
of
John.
dollars.
Don't twist this argument. You know I agree with that. You know I agree with that portion of the argument. The argument is not whether or not the sign stealing is outdated or anything like that, or whether or not it's more efficient to have, like the NFL does, a headset in the quarterback's helmet and the huddling, the old-fashioned way that they've been doing it in the NFL with great success for many years. I agree that that's how they should do this, and it solves the problem. The problem is that the way the NCAA is set up right now, they don't have that. They have signals. That's how most teams will call in their plays. That's the way that the NCAA has been for the last, 10, 15 years. And what has happened is Michigan took rules and directly violated them worse than anybody else. The sign stealing as it sits is not illegal. It is a tactical advantage that teams do.
We're making an argument of just they sign stole harder than everybody else.
No, they did illegal things. They did illegal things to sign steal better than anybody else. That's the problem. And it's not good. They did illegal. They sent a guy to different games to film. He dressed as a random fan.
They dressed in disguises in order to steal signs.
It's actually honestly honorable how extreme they went to do it. It's laughable, but at the same time, John, in all seriousness, it ruins the competition and the honesty and integrity of the game.
I can't get behind that part of it. I really
John,
can't.
I cannot tell you how much as someone who calls offensive plays as a coach. Now, I do not call college plays, but I use signals. I call an offense for a high school team. If the other team filmed my signals and knew exactly what play was coming every single time and had the opportunity to tweak their defensive calls and audible to be keep in mind, Michigan's a very good football team aside from stealing signals. I never said that. I never said they were a bad team. All I'm saying is when you give a team that has that much talent a tactical advantage like that, they're almost unbeatable. That's all I'm like. It's not just because these other teams that are stealing signs, John, the honest way to steal signs, like we said, is not illegal. They don't have everything, and they don't have as much in-depth research done as Michigan did. Michigan had literally call sheets, okay, pieces of laminated paper, and they'd watch the signals, tell the coordinator what is coming, and they would call, like literally had almost every single play figured out. Yeah, like this guy was a former Marine.
Some of the news headlines that you see are hilarious, though, because if you've played football, you know these are ridiculous, where it's like, well, these players said that, we checked into a play offensively, and then a Michigan linebacker screamed that he, knew which play they were running or which gap they were shooting. It's like, Mark, you and I in high school have seen that on defense.
Yes, that happens.
A guy
has
an
film study, and that stuff's going to happen. But we've never seen it to this extreme, John, where you literally have a guy standing next to a coordinator and saying, this is exactly what they're going to do. This is what this means. Call this.
Again, we're mad
it's
at
like,
them.
Dude, it is such a big.
Stealing. We're not mad at them for sign stealing. Then we're mad at them for sign stealing harder
illegally,
than other people.
Not harder, illegally.
More effort behind it.
No, yes, more effort, but illegal effort. It's where you direct. If they were just so good at stealing signals the legal way, John, that it was a tactical advantage, good for Michigan. But the reason they're not better than anybody else at doing it. This isn't a good job, Michigan. You figured out a way to steal signs better than everybody else. They cheated to do it. You have to admit those words that they cheated to do it, and other teams were not doing it that way. And that therefore they were much better at stealing said signs than anybody else by far. And it definitely directly affected their success on the field.
Look, I'll say this.
It's a problem.
I'll say this much again, and we'll move on because we've been talking about this for too long. It's one of those things where there's a very simple, easy fix that changes the entire dynamic of the situation, which is just the NCAA modernizing just the slightest amount. Because again, you can't convince me that this is such a massive. It looks silly for sure, but to think that Harbaugh should be suspended mid-season, can't get behind that, and
He has to be.
No,
will be, by the way.
And I cannot get behind the idea that they are going, the reason why they are, again, got over that hump and start beating their rivals and start winning these Big Ten championship games is because they started stealing.
That's
signs.
the problem with cheating is we'll never know.
Yeah,
we'll never know if
we'll
they
sit around and talk
games.
about Deflategate forever too. But I just think that's the entire concept. Of
Deflategate's a big deal too. But again, just saying that we should make the rules better so teams don't cheat is not an excuse. You can't make excuses for Michigan. If this was Ohio State doing this very same thing, you would be on my side of the
Ohio
argument.
State is doing the same
No,
stuff.
they're not. They're not sending people to get... Who? What evidence do you have of that?
There's been all sorts of conjecture around them.
From Michigan. Trying to make it look not as bad.
Having laminated sheets of all of their calls on it.
Yes, but they got those signals legally. There's
Okay,
a difference.
Right. So
There's
they
nothing
didn't
illegal
try as
about
hard
making a
as
laminated sheet. No. They were not sending. Like, you literally just won't admit that Michigan did it illegally. You're giving them credit. They broke rules to do it better than everybody else. That's what they did.
If the line in the sand, again, is what level of effort you put into sign stealing.
It's not effort. It's breaking the rules.
All right. The methodology being slightly different than other teams.
No. Very different.
Right.
And very illegal.
Watching signs on a film versus sending a
yes, because
dude
most teams, John, most
detective
teams, just so you know, on their film have two people stand behind the signalers with a big banner and block the film from getting the signals. I will show you clips of it if you would like. So a lot of teams block you from doing that. But when you're at the game, you still can see them. That's why it's an NCAA violation. That's why it says it in the NCAA rulebook that you can't do that. And Michigan said, we don't care about the rules. We need to beat Ohio State or Harbaugh's ass is out of here. And so they broke the rules and they bent the rule book. And they totally are going to get screwed over by it. I'm telling you right now.
This is the most overblown story in this entire
I thought it was overblown too. I actually think at this point that is definitely reasonably being talked about just enough. And it's only going to get worse. And I want you to prepare for a Harbaugh suspension. And if they do not suspend him, prepare for everything that happens the next 6 weeks, good or bad, to be vacated. I'm just telling you.
I'll sit around and wait for disciplinary action and what all these investigations entail and what ends up coming.
I'm excited to see because I'm actually very curious how serious it gets. But even as it stands right now, Harbaugh at least should be suspended for the remainder of the regular season.
Disagree. We'll move on. We're talking in circles at this point. But
I love this conversation though. John doesn't even. He's such a Michigan fan. You are.
Yeah, I am. You're right. Born and raised. Now, really quick, before we get into this, I just want to shout out Drew for totally redoing our board here. We had conversations about how much effort had to go into getting all the spreads and the unders and the overs lined up and all the new matchups and all that stuff. And Drew was like, no, I'm going to find a way to standardize it. And yes, we're looking at a single graphic right now, but this single graphic, according to Drew, took like 3+ hours to put together. And it shows, man, it's clean. It's professional. It's another reason why he's such a valuable part of this team.
Shout out Drew.
Seriously, shout out Drew. We would not be where we're at without his effort. So I definitely want to give him the time of day for that. Moving into these picks now. Again, Mark is 29-12 on the season. And while
say what?
While we're maybe overstating Michigan sign stealing scandal, we're definitely not overstating how significant it is to be 29-12.
This is against the spread, people.
That is
against the spread, over-unders, like all of that is included. 29-12. Yes, you heard that right. 29 wins, 12 losses, 8-0 in my last 2 weeks. I have never been hotter than this in my life. I'm going to brag about it. And if I were you, I would follow me into the glory because it is pretty nice watching these games and just being like, damn, did I go perfect again? Like, I'm literally texting John like, hey, I'm looking back at the episode, like, I think I picked all 4 of these games correctly again.
Yep. It's crazy. And so...
And your record's not bad, John, by the way. It's just
not, but it's in coin flip territory, and I'd like to be in, statistically significant. I'm actually doing something right territory. So we'll hopefully get there. Maybe this is the week where that happens. Teams on bye this week. We have the Rams, we have Kansas City, we have the Dolphins, we have the Eagles. So, 3 really talented, fun to watch teams are on bye this week. And then, of course, we have Josh McDaniels, who's definitely on bye this week because the Raiders. And Mark, I did warn about this in the last episode. What happens when teams fire a toxic coach midseason?
You did.
They come out.
Weird motivation comes out to play.
Yep.
You did. Yep. You did say that. You did call that. Anyone that feels bad for the guy shouldn't. The guy's gonna get paid for the next 4 years of his contract. Still, he could do effectively nothing, and he could go to Turks and Caicos, do whatever he wants to do. He's making a shit ton of money for the next 4 years for doing nothing.
Yeah, and that's the thing is when people are like, oh, like think about their family, like you still got to feel bad. He's still a human at the end of the day. It's like, yeah, I do. And like, when that happens to college coaches, I feel a little bit more bad because they don't have a.
Some of them still get buyouts.
I was about to say, and some of them still actually get.
Most of them actually, if you're big enough.
Yeah, but NFL coaches, nah, man, they are riding into the sunset if they get fired before their contract is up. So it is what it is, and And honestly, I can't think of anything better than being a fired NFL coach if you're, kind of just ready to sit on your bag and, like you said, go to Turks and Caicos or something. All right. First game here, Panthers Bears. We already talked about it. So, Mark, just straight up, what's your pick?
It's the Bears.
Bears -3.5.
Bears to cover the -3.5. I obviously am not putting that shitty game in my best bets. I'm not a maniac. But yeah.
Next, we got Titans and we got the Bucks. Titans are starting Will Levis. Tannehill, I don't know if he's healthy or not, but either way, he is on the bench for this game. And the Bucks are getting a single point. So essentially an even game. Who do you got?
I really like underdogs at home. I really like Baker Mayfield at home. Baker and the Bucks got robbed. Their offense got robbed against the Texans. They drove down the field, scored last week. He should have had a game winner on it under his belt, and CJ Stroud stole it from him. The Bucks are playing good ball. Their defense blows right now. And the one thing here's my concern with the Bucks. Right, the Titans want to run the ball. The Bucks have a good run defense. It's going to put all the pressure on Levis to have success.
Who threw 3 touchdowns to Hopkins?
He did. Right. But he didn't look fantastic against Pittsburgh. I'm taking the Bucks and put them in my best bets.
Bucks, best bets.
Home underdogs, I really like, and I just like the fact that it's going to come down to Levis has to do something to beat him, and I don't know if he's going to be able to.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with that, but no best bets for me. All right, Germany game. So, we started off with, just a beautiful matchup. You have KC, Dolphins in Germany. Crazy. And now you're getting the Walmart version of that. You're getting the Colts and the Pats. I should have put a little tank on top of the bratwurst or whatever we got there to show the Germany game. Colts are favored by 1.5 points. I think I like the Colts better here, but this sure as hell is not going in my best bets, and I'm probably not going to watch this game.
I appreciate the honesty, John.
Actually, it's in Europe. It's the only football on, so I'll probably watch it.
You probably will watch it. You can't help yourself. Football junkies here for sure, no doubt about that. When America goes against Germany in anything, and technically we're in Germany supporting Germany here, but when you go to Germany, we win world wars. So I'm gonna go with the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean that's something for sure.
There's no reason besides that because the Patriots
America
stink.
Patriots.
Yeah, the Patriots
Right.
stink. They blow ass, but I'm putting them not in my best bets, but I am putting them to win this game.
All right, we got Texans at the Bengals. Bengals are a 6.5 point favorite, which man, I kind of like that spread with the way that the Texans are playing.
Too good to be true type of thing, though, John. That's what it's telling me.
Yeah,
I feel like Burrow assassinates the Texans. I feel like the Bengals destroy them, but also why is the spread only 6.5? It's baiting me.
Okay, well, here's another important factor. Higgins and Chase both on the injury report right now.
How serious are the injuries? I feel like they're going to play.
Chase is looking more like he's not going to play. Higgins was limited participation with a hamstring injury.
I'm still picking Cincinnati to
Okay.
cover. Joe Burrow is in a tear right now.
I like Cincy to cover. I just wanted to make sure you had all the information at your hand.
Tell me this: does Joe Burrow have a heartbeat this weekend? Okay,
I think he's got a pulse. I think
if he has a pulse, then that's my pick.
All right, cool. Saints at Vikings. Little Minneapolis Miracle rematch. No, I'll never let that go. I hate the Vikings for 2 reasons. That's both. It's usually rare that you like 2 teams and they hate the same team, which is the Vikings. Vikings are getting 2.5 points at home, so underdog. I don't know
another home dog,
dude. And honestly, I don't think I could, in my right mind, bet against the way that Dobbs has been playing. I mean, now he knows his offensive lineman's name. It's over.
Barely. I mean, he's going to be there for a week instead of 3 days. John, I mean, if you don't, I'll tell you this right now. I'm going to pressure you into something. If you don't put the Saints in your best bets, you do not believe in your own team. I'll tell you that much.
I don't, right? Well, okay, their offense the past 2 weeks has found something, and I am very stoked on that.
I
Their
mean,
defense
Josh
has been playing
Dobbs
lights
doesn't
out.
know his team, and the Vikings defense still hasn't figured it
Look
out.
what he
I mean,
did with the
everyone's
Falcons.
scoring on.
You know what?
Yeah,
I
I
will add
know.
the Saints in here. You'll get me because of the fact that I still don't trust the Saints offense truly, but I think the Saints defense will be able to contain Josh Dobbs and
Yeah, I'm trying to
whatever.
give you a pick here because I would normally do that, but I'm gonna give you the chance to catch up a little bit here. I'm
Sounds
gonna
good. I
let you keep the
appreciate that,
Saints.
Mark.
Yeah,
Who do you have to win this game?
I
Doesn't
would
sound
pick
like
the
a best
Saints
bet.
as well, but
Okay.
I'm not gonna put in my best bets.
Okay, Green Bay at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh -3. I mean, that checks out. I think Pittsburgh will win this game. And by the way, this is the type of shit where it's like, this is why Tomlin ends up over 500 every single season. Because, like, their competition lately has not been great, and they have just squeaked away with wins, and now they have Green Bay visiting them at home. I mean,
they do play in a pretty damn tough division, John.
they do, which that's fair. And I think most of those games are down the stretch, though. What they played, I think the Browns, which they squeaked a win out there with Watson hurt.
Yeah.
Have they played Baltimore or the Bengals yet? I don't know if they have.
They beat Baltimore.
They beat Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So you better be careful about talking about Mike Tomlin not beating good teams here because
all right,
that's what
fair.
he does. He beats
off.
teams that he shouldn't beat. I'm taking the Steelers. I love the Steelers. Put in my best bets. The Packers blow, and they have to go to Pittsburgh against that defense. TJ Watt, listen, man, he is going to assassinate Jordan Love.
I think I'm going to join you on this one too, because where I was going with that rant is that, like, you know, they make it through whatever games, and now they're being gifted one, man. Like, Green Bay I have to admit, they are so much worse than I thought they were going to be this season. They are not good at all. But I just think LaFleur is lost without Rodgers, and we've talked about this a few times, but that's where I'm at with it. This game is going to be a good one. You have juggernaut defense versus, I just think, honestly, one of the more complete teams in the NFL right now in the Ravens. I mean, they're playing great defense. They're playing great offense. Lamar's playing lights out right now. Baltimore is -6. Now, what I think is interesting here, yes, these are both great defensive teams, but they're also divisional rivals that know each other pretty well at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And the over-under is 38.5. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, but
You know why it's that low, John? Because the Browns' defense is, like, record
really good. Really good. But these are divisional opponents that know each other. So,
which means are you thinking under?
I'm
because usually teams score less when they know each other.
My guts. Maybe I'll leave it.
38.5 is low.
That's low. That's what I don't know, man. I feel like I want to take the over on this. I'll let it. I have catching up to do. So if I'm sitting here and thinking about this too much, I should probably just leave it alone.
I think you got to be aggressive, John, to catch my ass. I'll tell you that. But whatever floats your boat here. I like the Browns +6, because I think they're just gonna bottle Lamar up a little bit better than anyone else has been doing. And I mean, I don't know if they win the game. Probably not, but they cover 6. I mean, this is an in-division game. It's going to be relatively close. Deshaun Watson's going to play a little bit better than he has, I think. The Ravens should win this game, but I don't think they cover 6.
Okay. We got San Fran at Jags. Another time, Jags are a home underdog here by 3, and they're playing really good football right now. I do not know if Trent Williams is back yet, but they do have Debo back. So their offense is almost back to being complete.
Oh, man. This is the Jags are flirting with being that top team in the AFC, honestly, and we did preseason say that they could be the 1 seed in the AFC. Check the receipts if you don't believe us. But the 49ers can't lose 4 straight, John. They can't lose 4 straight. They're too good of a team. They're coming off of a bye. They're getting Debo back. You give Shanahan that much time to prepare for a team that has lost 3 straight games, right? You can't go into Jacksonville and lose. You cannot do it
right now. Yeah.
So give me the 49ers best bet.
49ers best bet. And I
Can't
agree.
lose.
I mean, this
You
is.
can't
I was
lose
about to
that
say
game.
this is kind of a must-win for this 49ers team.
I mean, it's
So-
not because they're still going to like be in first place in their division if they
It's-
lose, but
it
they
isn't-
need to.
It's
They
like
need to win.
I was gonna say like streaks in the NFL matter a lot. To lose
Yeah.
4 straight at when you previously were getting regarded
6-0.
as a Super Bowl
They were
contender.
6-0. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really rough. So
By the way, I
let's do
still
that.
may sprinkle a little Super Bowl money on the 49ers because I very much so believe in them. A lot of things have
Definitely.
gone wrong these last
Definitely.
few games, but yeah, believe that they're a team that's dangerous.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Lions
All right.
Chargers, baby.
Lions Chargers. I like the Lions here. I mean, even at the Chargers, I just think again 2 weeks to prepare. Right, this does not strike me as a team that's going to come out sluggish after 2 weeks. This is the healthiest this Lions team has ever been. There is literally, other than their IR guys, there's nobody on their injury report. Right, I mean, they're basically down C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Emmanuel Mosley, who's out for the season, and Houston. I mean, those are who they're missing from that starting, originally starting crew. I'm fired up about this game personally. I think the Chargers beating the Jets is giving them probably a false sense of confidence. Now they have to go up against a really good defense and a high-powered offense. So give me the Lions. I'm adding them to my best bets.
I couldn't disagree with you more, unfortunately.
Matchup, because that was the one thing that gave me
Matchup
Matchup
wise, I also completely disagree with how the Lions are going to come out in this bye week. I want to flash back to that Patriots shutout win over the Lions. We went into the bye week. I was screaming to fire Dan Campbell. Most Detroit fans were just beside themselves angry, and they came out and figured it out, and they won their last 6 of the last 7 or something like that, right? And it carried into the next season.
I think they won or they lost one more after that Patriots game, if I'm remembering correctly. It's because
I don't think it
Patriots
was-
going into the bye week injured as shit, basically. It was
Right,
after.
right.
Feels
But we
bad.
came out of that bye week very, very much a different team.
Yep.
Now, I flash back to this year's bye week. We're full, right? We've had success. People are talking about us. We're contenders. You got people going on vacation, spending time golfing, going out to California, going out to Florida, going out to do whatever they want to do, spending time with families, not working out, studying extra film on a very dangerous Chargers team. Not doing extra preparation, taking advantage of their bye week. This Lions team is going to be very different after this bye than they were after the bye when they sucked. And I think that carries into this game. The Chargers have a little bit of momentum. Justin Herbert matches up well against us. He's going to pick apart our secondary. I think the Lions will be able to run the ball and stay in this game. But
I gotta say this: the Lions lost to the Cowboys and lost to the Dolphins after their bye week last year. So they still came out sluggish. I don't know, man.
I think they're going to be sluggish, man. I think they're going to be sluggish. The Chargers are a dangerous team. They just beat a very good Jets defense, and Herbert looked pretty good against them overall. And Eckler he's a matchup. You know what? Put the Chargers in my best bets. I hate to do this. Eckler is
fair.
one of the best. He's one of the best backs out of the backfield catching the ball, and our backers suck in coverage. That is a huge weakness for Detroit. Our linebackers cannot cover tight ends, which they have some freak dudes like Jay Everett at tight end. And then you have Eckler out of the backfield hitting those check down routes all day. So if you do drop everybody back deep because you're scared of Herbert's big arm, he's just going to pick you apart in the shallow game. And Anzalone's going to miss tackles, and he can't keep up with Eckler, and he can't keep up with these underneath routes that the Chargers do so much of. I think the Lions keep it close, though, because of their ability to run the ball. And I absolutely could still win this game, but I think the Chargers just it's a tough matchup. And I don't know how many more games the Lions lose, but this is one of them. Sorry.
All right. No, I mean it's one of the few that when I looked at the schedule before the season started, I was like, "Ooh, I don't know about that one." But I don't know,
Again,
man.
3-point underdog at home for LA. I know
Yeah.
the Lions fans are going to fill that place up and turn it Honolulu blue instead of that powder blue, but still.
Red flags. I get it.
Little best bet versus each other, John. I love it.
Yeah, it's rare that we do that too. So
It is rare.
Um,
One must win.
Yes, and it'll probably be you with the way that you've been picking stuff. So, Falcons at Cardinals. Cardinals are only 1.5 against the spread. That is. I understand, the logic behind them being a home underdog. But one, the Falcons have not been playing good football the past couple of weeks. They've kind of lost their plot a little bit. And on top of it, Cardinals are getting Kyler back. I don't know, man.
Is he playing this week?
Yep.
Confirmed.
Said, as long as there's no setbacks, is what they said. He will be playing this week. Yes. And so, to me, I'm thinking Cardinals actually had a good shot to win this game. So,
I'm thinking the Dirty Birds beat the Cardinals just because they have more. I mean, think about it, Kyler hasn't taken snaps with this team in quite some time. I highly doubt he's just going to come in and take over the game. Like he's not. He even struggled when he was fully healthy. Like he's also, by the way, John, I want to just put this out there. You know what drops in 2 days?
Call of Duty.
Yeah.
What's the next one they're dropping? It's
like a Modern Warfare 2, kind of like they have like the old maps in there. But all I know
actually,
yeah, some of the old maps are in there. It's got like a new zombies thing in there because you're a zombies nerd.
You know how good I am at zombies. I haven't played it in years.
John literally like had a lower GPA in high school and middle school because of zombies. Like just chose to spend hours on that game. Anyways, John is much like Kyler Murray. And I probably anticipate that instead of doing some extra film prep and getting his body ready to play, he may have the sticks in his hand, playing a little COD. So
he's tired of it. He's tired of playing COD. He's back to playing football. Because
who are you? Are you joking me? Come on. Falcons.
I don't know.
Give me the Falcons. Not my best bets, but like if you were smart here, you would take the better bird. It's the Falcon.
The better bird. I like that. The best birds matchup. We got the Commanders. Drew was bitching about their colors when he was putting this together. I mean, it is just.
I kind of like the maroon and,
I can't do it. I can't get behind.
When they were the Redskins, it was cool. Like I think it was.
Yeah, really. I think that's what it is. Is this team just doesn't have like a soul. Like there's nothing. to them.
Well, the Commanders and then to have those colors doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So.
Well, no, because they're the commies. That's why they have the Soviet red and yellow going. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean when you put it that way, I suppose. Seattle's going to win this game, John. Right?
Yeah, but are they going to win it by a touchdown?
See, I don't think they cover that.
Yeah, so
Sam Howell's been dialed in, man.
I was gonna say I like Seattle to win. I don't like them to cover. I'm not putting this in my best bets either way. I don't think.
Could see a little bit of a shootout.
Could, but I don't even know if I'm banking on that.
45.5 is kind of high.
Well, here's my thing too. Both of these offensive lines stink. Now the Commanders lost like half their pass rush last week, but I digress. I think that both teams are going to be able to get to the quarterback.
Gino and the Seahawks are coming off a loss. I mean, I feel like this is like a big time to stay competing with the Niners. They have to.
100%. And then we got the biggest spread I think we've seen all season.
Yeah.
16.5-point favorites are the Dallas Cowboys with their little division rivals who are injured to absolute shit and have completely lost the plot this season. Sorry, Giants fans.
You do remember us saying that in preseason, John, right? You remember, I think, me and you both agreeing that the Giants were going to stink major ass this year because they got away with having a very light schedule last year.
Highly fraudulent team.
Yes. And coming to this year, we said, like, you're in trouble. And guess what? They were in serious trouble. Even if Daniel Jones was healthy, they'd be in trouble.
Yeah.
One of my
coworkers who I didn't even know followed football messaged me today, and he was just like, I think that we need to draft Caleb Williams or Drake May because Jones is like, I mean, now he's injured and Jones
stinks.
We're in probably a bad, cap hit, dead money
he
situation.
Stinks. And I would also probably trade Saquon Barkley because
I think
let
you need an offensive line
somewhere else.
You need an offensive line and you need wide receivers. That's what you need more than anything else right now. And I don't know what you're going to do about Daniel Jones. I mean, that's my big question mark. So, to get back to this game in particular, I almost feel like I like the Cowboys to cover this.
Why almost? I do.
You do?
Anytime the spread is that big, dude, they're going to cover.
Because just Cowboys win in Cowboy fashion.
Cowboys are going to... Dude, Cowboys have beaten good teams by 40 this year.
Yeah. I think
let's think back to the first time they played the Giants, what the score was, and that was with all their pieces, Daniel Jones, all these receivers, like everybody was like they were fully still believing themselves too, and they beat that Giants team to shit.
Yeah, wasn't that the
40-0, I
game?
think.
Yeah, and it was their first game of the year, if I'm remembering correctly, too. So,
I mean, come on, I think they're gonna cover that, man.
Yeah, I'm looking
in Dallas.
Right now. It was where the hell is it? I can't find it, but yeah, they blew them out. So
it was ugly.
It was very ugly. Are you adding them to the best bets or no?
No.
Okay. A little bit different this time around. We only have one matching one this time. We got Jets at Raiders. Raiders are getting a point, which surprises me based off the way that both teams played.
I think Raiders are +1.
+1. Or yeah, I said getting a point.
Oh yeah, you're getting a point. Yeah. I thought you meant favored by a point.
Yeah, we actually have pluses and minuses now rather than every team just having the favorite next to them. So gotta actually say getting or giving now.
Yeah, that confused me for a second. Sorry.
No, all good. Yeah, I don't know if the Jets are gonna come away with this one. I'm struggling, man, because the Jets are in that like must win, keep playoff hopes alive territory, so that Rodgers could maybe come back. I'm not touching this one as far as best bets goes. I think the Raiders will cover. Put it that way. I think if they win, it's going to be like or if they lose, the Jets are going to, do it.
They're going to lose by 1.
Skin on their teeth kind of situation. Yeah.
I mean, I'll take the Jets to win that game. I think that they're coming off of a loss. I think the league wants the Jets to be a playoff team, and this is a game they have to have.
They have to win it.
When we had Tyler Conklin on here, when they played the Broncos, like he was just like, hey, we knew going into that was a game we had to have. And, you saw how they responded to that. There's a lot of doubt with Zach Wilson this week. There's a lot of talk about, the Jets fans always overreact. I mean, there were some of the most overreactive fans there ever have existed. I think they win this game, man. I think they win this game. I'm not going to put my best bets. I also just get really, really sad seeing the Jets in all these primetime slots that we've seen them in, and just thinking about how sick that would have been if Aaron Rodgers never got hurt. And obviously that's why they're in these slots to begin with, because, I mean, God.
And now we just get like horrendously low scoring games.
I know. John, listen to me, man. They would be the best team in football had he not gotten hurt. Just so you know. There's no doubt in my mind. I see what's happening in the rest of the league. Aaron Rodgers and the Jets would be the best team in football had he not gotten hurt, and it makes me really sad. But it is what it is. The Jets get a win on Sunday Night Football. 2 bad primetime games. We look ahead to the Monday night game. Broncos at Buffalo. Buffalo 7.5-point favorites. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think this is one of those games that Buffalo wins by 2 scores or whatever, and everybody kind of has a newfound resurgence of confidence in the Buffalo Bills' ability to play football.
So you, one of the biggest Josh Allen haters, think that
he turns it back
on?
I'm a Dallas Cowboys hater too, right? And I'll point out the games where I'm like, yeah, this is one that the Cowboys win by 3 scores and that everybody thinks they're the best team in the NFL for a week, right? Like this kind of feels like that vibe to me, for whatever reason. So yes, I mean, and the Bills have struggled the past few weeks. They need to bounce back somewhere. This feels like a proper game for them to do that. So I do like the Bills to win. I'm probably not going to add anything into my best bets here, though.
All right. I would pick the Bills as well. Madden curse, perhaps. I mean, there's really no explanation to how bad Josh Allen's been playing.
It's been
it's really not even how bad he's playing, it's how inconsistent, because there's been a couple games this year where he's looked as good as he ever has.
Yeah, and then the team as a whole, I just don't think is as good as they used to be.
John, it stems back to the same goddamn problem that they've had every year. We addressed this in the offseason. We said, what will they do to fix their run game issue? They don't even try to run the ball. They don't have an established running game besides Josh Allen trying to make stuff happen with his legs at times. They do not decide to impose their will at any point ever.
And they need one.
They need it to set up play action. They're doing Josh Allen, he's stepping back. They're playing 7-on-7 football, and everyone knows it's a pass every single play. And it's that's too much to expect these receivers to get open at clips that they need them to get open, and to expect Josh Allen to make something happen on every single play. He'll make magic happen, 40% of the time, but you can't ask a guy to do that. Give the guy a running game, let him get going. let him get comfortable, and then get better coverage matchups down the field. Set it up with true play action. Let that guy unleash the cannon that he has. But just to sling it every single play is just, it's asinine, man. It doesn't work. It hasn't worked.
No, you're setting yourself up to fail. And I do love the fact that football is kind of like whipsawing back on this direction of like, man, the good teams in this league have deadly run games.
You got to be able to run the ball to set up the pass and vice versa. And if you're one-dimensional, whether it's only running or only pass, you're going to struggle. And God, man, I all the slander that he gets, I feel bad, honestly, because I mean, any quarterback in that situation is going to throw a lot of interceptions and have a lot of critical errors that look like it's his fault. And at the end of the day, it is. But you got to do something to help the guy, man. Like,
hey, you got really upset when I said this a few weeks back, but
I know
there
what
was
you're gonna say.
The Matt Stafford comps, man. I mean, come on. They're right
Josh
there in
Allen
front of
has
you.
won a lot more games at this point in his career than Stafford had. He's had more playoff appearances. He's won playoff games. He's
But
definitely.
what I'm saying is that the Lions never really had a consistent run game with Stafford, and Stafford was forced to just sling it all the time.
Yeah.
And that put them
And they
in
were
tough
always
situations.
behind. That was the biggest thing. The Bills just choosing to not have a run game, so I
Right.
see that.
They just
the
wake up
Lions
one day and
had
go.
to throw because they were always behind.
Right.
And I mean, they both have ridiculous arm talents, but I don't know. I think it's more comparable, honestly, like Marino.
Sure.
That's like,
That's
I know
fine.
Marino's one of the best of all time, but in terms of arm talent, in terms of never getting it done, never having the help. That
I mean,
he
I was
truly
going to
needed.
say Josh Allen might be one of those guys that retires and we go, wow, what an amazing player. It sucks he never got a ring, right? Like
It's looking like that, man. I mean, it's not easy to win a championship, and you sure as hell can't do it with your defense banged up and not having a running game.
Yeah, it's not a recipe for success. I'm trying to think of again, we're releasing this episode on Thursday. We're usually out by Wednesday, so we don't want to spend too much time on what last week's games looked like. Because guess what? None of you guys give a shit at this point anymore. And we understand because we hardly give a shit. Is there anything you want to cover from those games? You want me to throw up our old board? And you can...
If you could pull up the board, because there are a few things I think worth talking about.
Sure.
And we don't have to go through game by game.
One I'll mention right now, CJ Stroud.
CJ Stroud. That was where I was going to go with
Offensive's rookie of the year is a lot.
Yeah, I think he's pretty much clicked that down. I think he's got that locked up. But I want people. There's always an overreaction, and he's obviously one of the aliens of the week. That video is already out. If you want to go check it out, if you haven't. What amazes me with CJ Stroud is last week he loses to Bryce Young on the Panthers, right? And so technically the whole debate of number one, number two quarterback. Technically, Bryce Young won it because he beat him head-to-head. But C.J. Stroud looked phenomenal in this game. Under a minute left against a Bucs defense that has overall been pretty good this year, and he picks them apart like he's been there, done that 1,000 times. On top of that, I mean, to have, 470 yards, which is an NFL rookie record passing yards.
I was going to say
I think he had 5 touchdowns, which is an NFL rookie record. And the connection he's got with Tank Dell, and, this team just plays with some energy, and they're a little bit up and down. And people want to talk about the Texans being a playoff team or Stroud being, this great quarterback. I would kind of slow down a little bit. He did just lose to the Panthers last week. So, we have to look at his body work as a whole so far. But gosh damn, this game was impressive. And he deserves to be talked about. And the film, I'm telling you, if you go watch that Aliens of the Week video, I showed film of a couple of those key throws on that last drive. He is on a different level right now. He came into this league. The whole Ohio State narrative of not being able to prepare a quarterback has definitely been a thing. It's over now. That dude is ready to play professional football.
Clearly.
Far more ready than these other quarterbacks, and that includes Levis, that includes Anthony Richardson, that includes Bryce Young. This guy ready to play, and I mean,
you know what else is crazy, and why this team is going to be absolutely terrifying next year. They're already damn good this year, honestly. I think they're definitely above expectations for what people had on them this year. Take a look at their injury report, Mark.
Yeah.
They're winning games, and that's what their injury report looks like. That's 22 guys.
John, they're also going to get better defensively because DeMeco Ryans is going to build this defense, and this is the guy. This was the mastermind behind the 49ers' defensive success the last few seasons. I want people to remember that. Okay, he's going to build this defense. He's got his quarterback. I will say on the flip coin of this, gotta suck to be the Panthers. Listen, there's moving up in a draft and like, you know, missing, right? That's going to happen, you know, whatever. But moving up in a draft, getting the number 1 overall pick, having everybody available and drafting the wrong guy and the other guy was picked right after. God, that's going to suck. Not to mention he's in your division. You have to watch him play you for the rest of the next 15, 20 years. God, bad time to be is there a worse like situation for any team to be in right now, John, or is the Panthers in that like, because that sucks.
Well, did you say in division? That's not accurate. You said the Panthers and the Texans?
Oh no, yeah, I'm wrong. I'm
You're
wrong.
good. Just sorry. I just got confused for just a second. I know they're both South teams. I get that. But yeah, no, I mean Panthers. I was
thinking Richardson in my head. That's why.
You're good to trade away a king's ransom to get the guy that might not be the guy. That's rough, man. Now again, I'm not out on Bryce Young. I think he could still be a dang good quarterback. Like I legitimately do. Is he going to be as good as CJ Stroud? That's what the Panthers.
It is definitely still too early to tell. Like I think we're both. Yeah, I'm definitely overreacting. I think the world's overreacting. And again, Bryce Young beat him head to head last week, so it is definitely still up for debate. But wow, did he look good? I also want to give a shout out to Josh Dobbs. Okay, he's a huge. I don't know if you have never played football or if you've never played at a higher level, and you know. To play quarterback is so incredibly challenging. I cannot even imagine how hard it is to play quarterback in the NFL. Understanding playbooks, audibles, checks, going through progressions, making the right read. Like, it is very, very difficult and requires a lot of chemistry with the guys around you and a relationship with the coaches you have to be on the same page. To compete in an NFL football game after being on that roster, for 3 or 4 days is unbelievable, let alone to win the damn game. I mean, this guy was taking his first ever snaps with a center on the sideline. He was practicing his cadence so that the offensive guys that could hear his cadence understood like his rhythm. And the fact that he prepared, John, do you know how much preparation he had to put in to say, hey, coach, listen, if, you know, our guy went down, right? Hall went down. He's out. He's got a concussion. I want you to know that anything in the playbook for this week and this week's game plan is on the table. You don't have to change anything for me. I got it. For him to be able to tell his offensive coordinator that, his head coach that, and go out on the field and then execute it.
It's crazy.
Talk about being prepared when your opportunity comes, and he deserves every single ounce of respect he's getting right now. He was competing with the terrible Cardinals team, and then he comes over and he's dangerous, dude. He's a dangerous player.
And clearly we saw how much the Cardinals missed him. Like, I know it's in preparation of getting Kyler back, but man, I'm
happy for the guy.
Me too,
and it's
man.
so incredibly people keep talking about it, but I don't think people realize how truly insane, and it's one of probably the most impressive things I've seen an NFL quarterback ever
nuts.
do.
It's so
it is literally like you couldn't write that.
I don't think
if you told me that was going to happen, I would have laughed in your face.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever fully wrap our heads around the feat.
How hard! I can't wait till they put out like a mic'd up thing of that game, and like they've already put out some stuff, but it's like, dude, how he did that. I mean, he didn't even know some of the guys' names he was throwing to, let alone have route chemistry, route timing, details of when he's going to break. A lot of the NFL is like RPOs and option routes too, where it requires chemistry and being on the same page as the guy. That's why like Kelsey and Mahomes are so good. Why Peyton Manning and Marvin Harrison and all those guys were so good. Why Brady had such a great relationship with Welker and Edelman and Moss, like because he had great chemistry and Gronk and all. Like it's a Jerry Rice Montana. All these guys were like good friends and like worked, watched film together. Stafford and Kupp, like all these people that are great connections. He didn't know any of them.
It's nuts. Last thing I want to mention from this week is the Ravens. Look, I get that the Ravens are damn good against NFC teams. That's like what's like to beat the Seahawks, who are a damn good team in the fashion that they did. I mean, again, I understand, Mark, you had your skepticism going into this season. It sounds like you're a little bit more on the Ravens train now. This team is legit. They are a contender. They are one of the most complete teams in this league that are just as good offensively as they are defensively. I think this team is truly a Super Bowl contender at this point, especially when the AFC looks not quite as consistent as we were hoping they would, right? KC's dealing with some offensive issues. Miami's pretty one-sided. Who's the most complete team in the AFC right now? I got to say it's the Ravens. And yes, even if they lose to the Browns this week, I'm still going to say the Ravens are the most complete team in the AFC.
That's bold, man. That's bold because there's a bad dude in town that's in division named Joe Burrow that's getting things cooking. And that is not a team I'd bet against. If you were going to pick an underdog team right now that is going to win the Super Bowl, I'd pick Cincinnati. Because that dude, again, they have the whole revenge story. It's there for them. And Joe Burrow is just truly ice cold. We've seen him do it. He's proven himself far more than Lamar. And Lamar's had more time to do it.
Burrow. I love me Joe Burrow.
I would give some respect to the Ravens. I cannot make them a contender unless something happens to Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, this is no slight to the Bengals and what they've been able to put together the past few weeks. They look like a contender, 100%.
How many playoff games has Lamar won?
0. Hey, man, this year's the year that changes, I think.
They might win one.
If this isn't a year where they're winning playoff games, then I don't know what the hell you have to do to make.
I'm just saying, like, it's scary to put a team in your contenders list, John, that has a quarterback that has never won one. Like, that is a scary.
You can say that about a whole lot of people that are probably gonna, do something this year. You can say that about the Detroit Lions.
Goff went to a Super Bowl.
I understand that, but what I'm trying to say is that, like, there's a lot of change up that I think has happened.
I think every other contending team, if you pull that picture back up, John, has a quarterback that's done something in the playoffs. Burrow has proven himself. Brock Purdy proved himself last year. Mahomes has proved himself.
By the way, Drew mentioned this. We never gave our Lombos out to who we think is actually most likely to win the Super Bowl at this point.
To actually win it?
Yeah, I think I'm going here still. I still think this is the team that's most likely to do it. Oh, shit. I don't know what I did there. We're good.
So you're picking – you still think the 49ers are the most likely Super Bowl winner?
I think it's going to –
after 3 straight losses.
I think it's going to come down to seeding a lot. But, yeah, I think this slump is not something I'm necessarily worried about for them. And you and I talked about that earlier, right? Like, they are still a Super Bowl favorite. So
yeah, you can go ahead and drag mine over to Kansas City because the Chiefs have a top 5 defense in this league. The offense has not figured it out yet, and yet they're still sitting atop the AFC. And when Mahomes does inevitably figure it out, and he will figure it out, and Andy Reid will figure it out with this new group of receivers, and when they get clicking and the defense stays on the rise that they're on, they're going to be a dangerous team. And if the AFC goes through Arrowhead again, we've seen it how many times? Like, why would we think anything else is going to happen? And the only one that I think is a true threat is Joe Burrow and those Cincinnati Bengals. And, as it sits right now, they're going to have to go to Arrowhead again. So
seeding is going to matter a lot.
Seeding is big. Seeding is big. I saw a very stupid, this would be like the last thing we end on. I saw a very, very stupid tweet regarding, it was a Lions fan. I don't even know why. Like, they said, if we were to have a 1 seed or a 2 seed, what would we rather have in the NFC? Because
What?
I know. And he goes,
I already hate where this is going.
Do we want to have an extra home game and keep the momentum rolling, or would we rather have a bye and have a chance that we like cool off? And it's like, are you delusional? You have to win one less game to make the playoffs. You get an extra week of rest. You get an extra week to study up on the teams that you potentially could play. Are you insane? And you still get home field throughout. So what?
Yeah. No.
No. Whoever that was, I'm not even gonna. I had to say it because I saw it. And I was like, "This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen."
No, I can't get behind that. And again, like I understand the whole concept of being sluggish through a bye, playoff bye. First of all, generally totally different. It's very rare,
right?
That one seeds. And 2, I don't think the Lions are that kind of team. I said that earlier. I do not.
We'll see this week, John.
I know we will, and it's a good opponent too. So I'm not saying that game's a shoo-in if they didn't have a bye week, which is a weird backwards way of thinking about it. But like, I think this team's locked in. I don't think that having a week off is going to change the competitive nature that is literally like in the heart and soul of this team. So we'll see what happens. But anyways, we appreciate everybody for listening. We tried to keep this one on a little bit shorter side. We had some guests the past few weeks and all that stuff, so we're running a little long lately. If you stuck around this long, we do appreciate it. We'd like to let you know that every like, every comment, every subscribe means a lot. Clicking the link below that contains our merch store means a lot. We work pretty hard on all this shit. We're still growing. We're still underdog mentality as of this point, and you can join the party before it gets too big, right? So it's kind of how I feel about it.
We appreciate anyone who listens to us talk, and we say some dumb things, but we also say some pretty smart things. The picks have been on the hot train, so definitely I would ride those picks. And obviously follow us on all our socials for short media content, because we do plenty of shorter. If you don't have time to sit down or drive around and listen to us talk for an hour and a half, we got plenty of short form content as well for you, so you can still get a glimpse of what we talked about, because we say some pretty good things and some pretty crazy things.
Yes, sir. So we will see you guys next week with plenty more good things, crazy things, and maybe another impressive slate of picks. We will see.
We'll have to see. If I go perfect 3 weeks in a row,
I think we got to throw you a party.
We have to have a party, a podcast party. If I go 3 weeks in a row perfect, because I made some riskier picks this week.
Yeah,
but I believe it. I stand on it.
Let's go. All right, we will see you guys next week. Thanks again for watching. Peace.